I'm delighted to welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar and my avatar to this session on basic analytics using Python. I'm Jayashree Jayaraman and I will be the host for this evening. Before we begin, here are a few hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please close all other applications on your computer and log out from your organization's VPN to conserve internet bandwidth. Avatar, a pioneer in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion, had the vision to see more women participate in the workforce. We have expanded our impact across diversity strands to cover people with special needs, disabilities, LGBTQ+. Avatar Group, a Stanford seed certified company, has built its DEI offerings under 4 EDs, which ensures that every organization can have a clear path towards moving forward, building and sustaining diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplaces. For its transformational impact in the realm of DEI, Avatar Group was listed in the prestigious Steward Leadership 25 listing by Straits Times and INSEAD at Singapore in 2022. Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, founder, president, Avatar Group, is one of India's most respected thought leaders on diversity, equity, and inclusion. An award-winning social entrepreneur, she is best known as a pioneer of second career opportunities for women in the corporate India. A relentless advocate of the potential of women in the workplace, Dr. Soundarya is the founder of successful social enterprises such as Avatar Career Creators, Flexi Career India, Bruhat Insight Global, and Avatar Human Capital Trust. Her latest brainchild, myavatar.com, is India's first diversity job portal for candidates belonging to the underrepresented talent groups. People with disabilities, people with LGBT. As pioneer of DEI in India, Avatar is proud to present this diversity job portal, myavatar.com, and is committed to shine the spotlight on candidates who have the qualification, talent, passion, and drive for career success, not on their differences. In fact, we at Avatar know that this is the differences that makes everyone unique and valuable. MyAvatar.com was recognized as one of the top 10 promising job portals by Silicon India. This series of webinar from myavatar.com aims to cover and bring to you those value adds and topics that can help you with your career and at your workplace. I, Jayashree Jayaraman, once again welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar, India's premier diversity, equity, and inclusion solution firm, and myavatar.com, India's only diversity hiring portal, to My Avatar webinar. Let's celebrate ourselves. The nature of work is changing with emerging technologies. It only makes sense for talents like you to keep up with the evolving core skill sets. In today's VUCA world, educational qualifications have to be supplemented with in-demand skills, hands-on experience, and social thinking. This is where upskilling your domain skills plays a major role. Basic Analytics using Python is an upskilling session which will guide you on how Python facilitates easy data analytics through a demonstration around data cleaning, data visualization, and statistical analysis. Today we have Mr. Banu Kumar, Head Information Systems, Avatar Group, a technologist with close to 3 decades of hands-on experience in technologies related to cloud infrastructure, automatic identification and data capture, analytics and DevOps. A passionate trainer, mentor, and a coach with more than 5,000 hours of training and still ticking. Banu handles anything and everything around technology at Avatar. So without any further delay, let's move into the session. We would request the participants to drop your queries and questions in the chat box so that it will be easy for the facilitator to pick it from here. So over to Banu. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree. Good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so as Jayashree said, you can put in your questions in the chat box. You can put it as and when, and I'll monitor it and I'll respond at the appropriate time. Be assured before we end the session, all questions will be responded to. That's a guarantee. Depending on timing, I will manage it. Okay, that's the first one from my side. Now, the way I have tried to structure it is, I know there are some people who are inquisitive to see what is Python doing for analytics, why people are talking about Python. Some people who have tried Python wanting to have a refresher on it, or some of them who is trying to learn. Now, this session, the way I've structured it is, this is more like a refresher fast forward session. Obviously, Python analytics basics itself in a normal curriculum will take roughly around 8 to 12 hours. We are talking about 1.5 hours or roughly around 1 hour. So the way I've tried to structure it is, I start with a PPT. I will probably give you some concepts related to Python. Aspects. I've shared the screen. Hope you're able to see. I'm sharing the screen. So it should be visible for you. The way I've tried to put it is, this is what I'm trying to structure as part of the contents. So basically, I'll give you a perspective of what analytics is and how Python and analytics can go together. So I will start with that, and then slowly I will move into running a Python code. Now here, the difference between a normal training versus this webinar is, I'm not going to teach you how to write a code, because that's going to take a longer time. The way I'm trying to do it is, I have got a ready-made code. I'm going to probably show you that code, tell you what that code does, and show you the output. That's what I'm going to be doing. Some of you have attended my earlier 2 sessions on Excel, where I did the analytics using Excel, where I wanted you to try it out. But here it's a subtle difference, because as I said, the crowd is different. So I'm doing it a bit differently here. But I'm open for any questions related to, be it somebody who knows technology, who does not know technology, don't worry. If you have a question, put it in the chat box and I will respond. With that said, I'll probably ask you a basic question. How many of you know what analytics is? Say yes in the chat box if you know. Otherwise, you can keep quiet. Not an issue. I know I will have to give a little more detail. Quickly, can I have some response? Say yes if you are aware of analytics, or if you are not, if you want to say no, you can go ahead and say no. Yes or no in the chat box, please. I'm going to be asking a couple of questions before I start into this. Can I have the response, please? That's the only way I can make these interactive. Thanks, Gayatri. This is the only way I can make it interactive. I'm not going to evaluate you just because you know something. Noted, Ritu. Be rest assured, I don't have time for all that in the 1.5 hours. Thank you, Noor. So I'm just trying to figure out the audience pulse so that I can probably quote the examples and other things clearly based on the audience pulse. Thanks, Kruti. So I have few of them who understand the basics. So roughly 4 of them have responded. What about the others? I see 30 odd participants. I'm sure I can expect some more responses, right? Just an yes or a no. You don't even have to type OES. You can just type yes. I'm okay with that. Alphabet yes is also there. Thanks, Fruti. Thanks, Dr. Kumaravel and team. I'm probably sure you have a team sitting with you, sir. Thanks, Paulin. Okay, thanks, everybody. So people have started bringing in. Good, great. So there are a lot of people who are introduced. There are quite a few who are not introduced, which is perfectly fine. So the reason why I started off with this is we ought to know what analytics is. So basically a quick definition for the benefit of those who are not aware. People like Jacinth or Silvanush and others have said no. So I'm just bringing in this definition. Basically, whenever you're trying to use data with the help of information technology, statistical analytics, quantitative methods, computer-based models, based on which you are enabling the manager to get better insight on a particular operation. That is what is analytics, which means you are slowly migrating towards fact-based decisions, what we normally call as informed decisions. We are migrating towards fact-based decisions, wherein we are trying to understand what the issue is in a little more detail based on facts. I'm using an IT. Technology is being used because I collect data. I analyze data. Now, how do I analyze? I use statistical information for analysis, basically a mean median, or I could probably do a logistic regression, linear regression, whatever. There are multiple other ways in which we do it. So these are some of the things that we will probably do. Or we will use some of the quantitative or mathematical or computer-based models where I will use a KNN model and all that for me to look at it. But why am I doing all that? Basically because I want to make a decision based on facts. Excuse me. So that is what is business analytics. Right? Now, again, data to decision is something now to a greater extent we have beaten to death right across everywhere, be it courses, be it interviews, be it admissions, people are talking about it. So let's probably understand what that is, because I'm trying to set the tone in such a way that you understand why we are doing certain things more than how you are doing it in Python. The essence of this session is I want you to understand the whys rather than the hows, because the how part of it, you can always refer manuals or your IDE like Jupyter will help you. But the why am I to do it is very important. And that's what I'm driving here at the end of the session. And Python is only a tool for us. This is the important factor that you need to understand. So we have a chunk of data. So all that what we try to do is typically when we take static reports, which is normally a manual process, what we try to do is we are basically trying to say what has happened. Sometimes we will go a little more interactive. We'll make it look like a dashboard and all that, where we will try to say, why did that happen? Using that, we will make a decision. Now, remember, I'm slowly introducing that report to dashboard. The difference is we are all used to driving a car or driving a two-wheeler. Two-wheeler, you have on top a dashboard. Cars also, you have a dashboard, and then you have the actual parts that is enabling you to drive separately. What you see on the dashboard are the critical ones that you need to focus on. Two-wheeler, you talk about fuel, you talk about speed. Cars, in addition to fuel, speed, it talks about the engine heating. It talks about quite a few things like battery and other stuff. Now, why is that important? Because the moment something is not right, you get a light switched on there, you know that is a problem. So you go drill down by opening the bonnet and then trying to figure out or giving the mechanic to check it out. So that's the difference between a dashboard and a report. Report is you state what has happened. Dashboard is you also monitor and drill down to figure out what you have. That's the difference. So what becomes a why? Then we slowly migrated towards what we call as prediction. That is, I am now starting to predict what will happen based on the past. I am now starting to predict what will happen based on the past. So that's exactly where I start coming in. Now, when I start predicting as to where I am coming from and what is going to happen, I start gaining more value. That's why if you notice the green tint is slowly increasing. Slowly, just from stating what it is to stating why it happened, now I'm able to predict. The moment I predict, I know certain things may happen, may not. That time I start recommending what we call as prescribe. What should I do? And that is where we use a lot of automation and decision support systems, and we end with an action plan. And this is exactly what analytics is all about. An analogy to this is when we go meet a doctor. Doctor asks you what happened. You start reporting. They are static reports. You just state what happened. Then he asks you certain questions, and those are the critical parameters that he ought to know so that he understands what the problem is. Based on that, he predicts what could be the illness and writes it on a piece of paper, writes a medicine on a piece of paper, which is called prescription, because he prescribes. That's exactly what analytics is all about. You analyze what the problem is and then take charge in terms of how to resolve it. That's exactly what we are trying to look at, right? So this is what we mean, a sample, simple data in becoming a decision further to that action, because we are able to prescribe and predict and do whatnot. So the ultimate value that we gain is phenomenally high. That's exactly where it starts. So what is the full data science process? Now, this process actually evolves out of a bigger spectrum of activities, basically trying to talk about understanding what the data is, minimalizing the required data, preparing the data, analyzing a lot of those things. That is now consolidated into 5 basic steps: collection, cleaning, exploratory data analysis, model building, and model deployment. Now, I will try to cover a bit of the first three in my demo session. Collection, cleaning, exploratory. Collection is I'm going to show you the collected data, and then I'm going to talk about how to clean and how to explore. Now, exploratory data analysis is very simple. As in, when it comes in, I'll tell you, but basic logic is, am I having the right kind of data? Is it sufficient enough for me to make a decision? That is what is exploratory data analysis, popularly known as EDA. Beyond that is hardcore technical, where I try to build a model and then deploy it so that I know I can predict and I can move on. Now, beneath those 5 activities, I've got some roles incorporated across various activities. That basically tells you, if I'm a data engineer, I'll work on collection cleaning. If I'm a data analyst, I will work more on cleaning and EDA. If I'm an ML engineer, I'll primarily work on model building, model deployment. If I'm a data scientist, I ought to know all of these, so on and so forth, right? So the essence is, there are a lot of steps, but more importantly, whether I'm technical or non-technical, I can survive in this data analytics industry. That's exactly why this has a lot more fan following than any other industry domain, technical domain that we are talking, right? So having said this, let's quickly jump into Python, because that's the essence of the session today. Now, typically when I want to work on Python, I will have to understand what Python is. This is a quick single snapshot. I know some of you who know Python will know there is a lot more beyond the snake that I have put in here, but I'm just trying to give a perspective. When I say Python, it is a tool. Anybody wanting to learn Python, you should start with it. Anybody wanting to learn Python, we should start with this. Now, learning Python is not a big deal. Anybody and everybody can actually learn Python. And if you are someone who's very good in playing games and you would prefer to learn based on playing games, there is a website called codecombat.com. You can use that to learn and play also. I have put that in the chat box for those of you who really want to get into specifics. Codecombat.com is one place where you could see this. Okay, back here, Python, like any other programming tool, we'll talk about data types. Now, what are these data types? Basically, is it a numeric? Is it a non-numeric? Is it image? Whatever it is. Control structures basically are something like what you see here, wherein this is one control structure input. This is one control structure where you are trying to validate, so on and so forth. So those are things that happen, and the executions are your functions, and it enables you to solve your basic problem. But the biggest 2 packages that any basic Python knowledgeable person will definitely have heard of are pandas and numpy. Numpy is basically anything that you want to play around with numbers. Numeric Python, numpy. Anything that you want to play around with numbers, you will get that numpy package. Now, the reason why I call it a package or why this is popular is Python, with due respects to every coder in the world. I am in this industry for the last 32 years, so I have written code in a language called COBOL, which is probably one step below in English, which means if I have to write a code, I will write multiple pages in proper English with proper grammar, spellings, and so on and so forth. But today, everything is cryptic, much similar to our SMS language, and everything is quick and easy to implement. And that's where these packages come in handy. Panda or NumPy or any other packages in Python that you have actually does the entire chunk of what you want to do. Now, suppose I want to calculate an average based on a given set of data. I don't have to remember the formula for average. I just have to use the NumPy package and then say, calculate average in the particular appropriate syntax, and the average is ready. Because how do I calculate the average? What is the formula to be used? Is all written in that package, and I don't have to remember that at all. That's the reason why coding languages like Python is getting popular day by day, and we have lost track of COBOL and all that. The second reason being IBM, the typical mainframes is where COBOL was surviving over a period of time, right? That apart, the key factor is Python thrives on packages. You want to work on statistics, there is a package. You want to work on data, there is a package. You want to work on visualization, there is a package. You want to work on images, there is a package. So all that you need to know is what package to use for what purpose and what is the command for it. You don't have to know anything else. That's the advantage. And that's one of the main reasons why Python is getting popular than any other tool that could help in analytics. Believe me, I can write analytics related code in Java. I can write it in C++, but I will not write because there I need to write the calculation. Here somebody has written the calculation. That's the only difference. Then these Python packages help us in cleaning and manipulating the data. I know I've not talked about Panda because I've got specific slides coming around it. So hold on till then. So I use this Python code for cleaning and manipulating the data. And typically when I want to program, good old days, we were all taught pseudocode or flowchart. Today, most people have forgotten flowchart, but it is now coming in more like a mind map. But what is important is you need to understand the flow. Without the flow, it is going to be very difficult for you to plan what next. And that is what I call as flow diagram. So if someone needs to be successful, you need to understand these concepts here in terms of analytics. One more drill down, if you want to be a successful coder, you need to document. Your code should be scalable and secure. What do I mean by that? You need to understand or make other people understand both ways. You need to know why are you using a variable. You need to know what is the background behind writing that code. What will that code give you as an output? What can the code do? What cannot the can do? Now, why is that required? Basically, because that's the only place where somebody is documenting, and I write the code and give it to somebody here. For want of any other name, I will use a name Gayatri or a Smriti. How will they be able to take over? The only way they will be able to take over is they have some document around it. Any product when you buy, don't you look for a user manual? That's what it is. So you need to document. Scalable. Technology is ever evolving. VUCA world and all that is nice to hear, but technology is the most volatile aspect here for us today. Keeps changing every day, every hour, every minute. So it's important that I prepare myself for reusability. I manage it for larger data things, and I also use it for multiple applications, codes where required and all that. So it's important for me to use it in any situation of analytics. Today I have 200 rows. Tomorrow I'll have 2000 rows. Day after I might have 20 lakhs rows. So the code should work. I cannot redo the code. And that's exactly where Python comes in handy, because when I do it with Excel, there is a limitation of number of rows I can have. With Python, I don't have a limitation. That's the advantage. So I'm making it scalable, which means every aspect of it must be scalable. Lastly, secure, because we are working on a lot of data. So you need to understand the source, how accurate the sources are, because if your source data is wrong, your decisioning is wrong. If your source data is wrong, your decisioning is wrong. So that's a key factor. So the data security matters a lot. And of course, code, when you're not writing it properly, there could be cache crashes and all that, which will end up into confusion for us. Easier to write a new code than probably resolve this. So these are things that you need to keep in mind. Now, I will pause for a minute here. Again, it's been a while. So I want an answer from folks here. Am I making sense to you? Yes. And if it is a no, tell me which is it that you want a clarity on. On the chat box, quickly say yes or ask your doubt on the chat box, please. You just have to type the letter yes or your question. It's just that. Thanks, Gayatri. Thanks, Sudarshan. Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, Silver is okay. Understand, Gayatri. Okay. So good. Folks are still with me. I have not lost you. Thanks. That gives me the confidence. So I'll get into the next. We will now get into the next aspect in terms of pandas. I told you NumPy is for number related work, but I did not explain panda. And that is where this comes in, because the essence of analytics that we are going to be working on depends basically on this package pandas. As the name suggests, pandas is Python data analysis library. So this is a library of commands that will help you work on analysis. This was a tool that was developed by Wes McKinney. And incidentally, this is built over the NumPy package that we already saw, because it's working on data. The moment there is number, you need a NumPy package. So the data that you use here is called a data frame. This is open source. Open source is basically anybody can use it. That's what it is. And it helps you manipulate data, enable good performance and all that. You can do any of the statistical operations like mean, median, maximum, minimum, correlation. You can clean data, filter rows, remove missing data. You can write create visuals using libraries like matplotlib and all that. You can get your data to work around the way you want. In fact, you can create pivot tables. You can merge multiple Excels into one. You can summarize, you can sort. You can do all of it using pandas. You can do all of it using pandas. The concept behind it is very simple. It is fast, efficient. Why? I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to think. It's very simple. I just use the right command and then it works. Number one. Then number two, this does not care about the data format. CSV file, SQL file, image file. Name it, you'll probably be able to take it. And the moment you're able to pick the data, it will probably be able to tell you what is missing, what is available, what works fine, what does not work fine. You can slice dice it the way you want. You can insert columns. You can delete columns. You can create columns. You can do whatever you want. You can even group them, aggregate them, and take it forward. So sky is the limit in terms of any of the analytics that you want to work on in pandas. So these are some of the commands which are normally used. Now, again, a convention, when I use NumPy related syntaxes, you prefix it. Instead of you typing out NumPy fully, they normally say NP. Similarly, for pandas, they normally say PD. So there are a lot of those things that are used. So these are some of the things that we are going to see in my example today when we are working on the sample, right? So before I get into the sample code, a quick check. Are we all in sync? Are you all still with me? All fine? Again, as always, by now you know it. A quick yes or a no on your chat box. If it is a no, tell me why something is not, tell me what is not clear and I will tell you. Quickly, I've already shared the screen in terms of the data cleaning that I'm going to talk about. Great. There are a lot more people coming up with this. Okay, Ritu, you want me to go back to that slide? Give me a moment. Let me go back to that. Just a sec. I went into this share. So give me a moment. I will go back to that share. 1 sec. You want the syntax one, right? I will open that for you. So I'm sharing it. So this is the one you want, right, Ritu? So this basically gives you syntax. These are the few that we will use very often, but there are a lot more in pandas itself. Similarly, you have a lot in NumPy, you have quite a lot in each of the packages that we are talking about. But for today's example, I'm just going to pick a few from here. Like, for example, PD read is going to read the file. And the file type is going to be CSV, so I say CSV. Index basically tells you the row labels. Columns will tell you the column name. Size will tell you the number of elements available. Shape will tell you the dimensionality, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. So what is dimensionality? How many rows and columns? That's what dimensionality is all about. Then head N will tell you so many rows at the top. Tail N will give you so many rows at the bottom. D types is going to give you the data types of each of the columns, and info will give you the summary. So that's about it in terms of it. Hope that makes sense, Ritu. So I will get back into the code so that we will start working on the code. Now, before I get into the code, let me probably give you the data, because most important for data analytics is one must understand what the Excel file is all about or what the source of data is all about. So this is one file that I have, which is called rounds2. Now, basically, this is a funding venture related data that I have picked. There are 2 files. One is rounds2, which tells you the second round related companies which have got the funding. That's the data. So it will tell you how much is the amount that has been raised, when was it funded, and then it will tell you what is the funding round code, wherever it is, code A, code B. Let's not worry about the specifics. Was it crowdfunding and all that? It will also tell you fund round type, and then it will talk about the link for the funding, what we call as a permalink, and then the company related permalink, organization fame, and then within that funding round. So this is the code that we get in terms of it. The second file that I'm going to be using today is the companies file, which is basically the list of companies. So this tells you the permalink of the company. So I have a permanent link. So based on that, I will be able to pick the company name. So these two files will have to merge into one when I am operating. Key point. That's how you'll have to start working on the analytics. First basic point. Then you have the name of the company. What is its homepage? Which category does it belong to? Media, software, games, biotechnology, mobile, analytics, whatever. Then what is the status? Is it still operating or has it been acquired? Because it's still funding. So we need to know that country code, state code. If you want to expand the complication here, you could have another file which talks about the country code, country name, another file which talks about state code, state name. You could merge all of them together also if you want to. Then you have the region, city, and when was it founded. Now, what I would have done is there will be one permalink which will be additional in one of these files. We will talk about it as we go by. I'm giving you that because steps that we need to follow when we are trying to analyze is understand the file that is in availability for you for your analysis. Now, here is an Excel with 30 odd rows, 70 odd rows, 100 odd rows. So you are happy to just go through this, scan through by doing a page down, page up for you to look at it. But is that what we need to do? Is that how we need to do? No, because if you have larger files, it is very difficult for you to do that. And that is where I am going to be using Python for me to operate on. That is where I'm going to be using. Okay, technically, Gayatri, you can use all type of data. There is no if and but only thing is you must necessarily be able to know what type of data or what type of processing you want to. That's the only thing that you need to take care of. Otherwise, you are at your own will to do that, right? Here I have used NumPy Panda. I told you we call it by NP or PD. I've done that. This is matplotlib basically for plotting graph, PyPlot, Python plot. That is for this, and this is for some more analysis. If at all you want to use it and all that, I have taken a proper code to show you. Now, one thing that I have also done here is this has a lot of these permalinks. You have hash, slash, and all that. Now, the challenge with that is Python understands hash differently, forward slash differently, backward slash differently, and all that. So we need to understand the code, which will normally be known to you if you are an expert. If you are learning, somebody who gives you the code will tell you. Like in this case, I'm going to tell you this follows an encoding sequence of 8859. So Gayatri, like for that matter, this is an encoded file, and I'm saying decode it using this technology. So theoretically, I can use any type of file. So see here, I'm calling rounds2 file and companies file. I showed you both the files. And remember, in the slide, I told you, in pandas, all these data that you are using is called a DF, data frame. So I'm creating rounds as a data frame for rounds2 file and companies as a data frame for companies file. Now, if it is a small Excel file, I'll go through the Excel. Here, what are we doing? I am trying to say, give me head. Remember, syntax head will give you the top n rows. If I don't say anything, top 10 rows. If I say head 5, I'll get 5 rows. Head 25, I'll get the top 25 rows. So when I say print round head, I start getting the top 10 rows. See here, I've got the top few rows. Top 5 rows is what will give you when you don't specify anything. And when I specify 10, it will give you more. So let me probably show you by changing it. I will say 10. There you go. See here, 0 to 9. This is the label. So you have 9 rows that are located and shown from the file called rounds, which is what is actually stored in this data frame, rounds. Quick check, because just into the coding. Are you all with me? Is it making sense? Quickly say yes or ask me the doubt in the chat box, please. Code. Some of you are not introduced to code, so I want to ensure that you're also with me. Quick check. Thanks, Gayatri. Thank you, Smriti. Anybody else? I know both of them had said they are introduced to. Oh, thanks, Vishal. Madan, thank you. Anybody else, especially those who are not introduced to code, are you all fine? Great. Thanks, Emmanuel. Okay. So we will move on. So this is how I try to give print and then do the needful for me to do it. If I don't give anything, it is going to give me the top 5, 0 to 4. Now, for want of space, it has now gone into the second row and the third row, but ultimately all these are columns together. Ritu, what is it that you are lost into? Ritu, where is it that you are lost? Just indicate that and I will bring you back into the flow. I don't mind holding, don't worry. That's okay. You don't have to worry about it, Ritu. You don't have to really know the code. If you are working somewhere, there is a team to do the code. If you are learning and you want to learn Python, this is an indication to you saying, am I the right person to learn Python, or do I take any other cover within the data analytics instead of coding? So this is going to help you. But believe me, this is not rocket science and you will still be able to learn. Unfortunately, this is a refresher kind of a session than a learning session. This is giving you a bird's eye view. So I'm not getting into teaching, but showing. But typically when you get into teaching, we will definitely be able to do this. We will definitely be able to do this. Please test it out, try it out. If not, reach out to us. We will figure out a way to get you up to it if you really want. Okay, now I've got the top 10 rows of rounds or 5 rows. Then I'm also trying to understand what is the structure. So that is where I'm saying shape. Remember I said in the beginning shape. Shape will tell you the data types of all the columns and the data type and all information. So it says the first column is company permalink. There are 1,14,949 rows. All of them are not null. And their data type is object or float. Float is numeric, object is non-numeric. People like Ritu, just take it that way for now. Right? So you get it. So it tells you what it is. So I know there are 6 columns, 1,14,949 rows. Now, obviously, 1,15,000 rows, I cannot go row by row in Excel sheet for me to review. The pace is not going to be sufficient. And that is where I use this Python automation. See, here you go. I say companies, just like what I did for round, I'm asking it to give for companies also. It gave me the same details, same info, same number of rows. So here I have 66,368 rows. So the permalink column, the company's data frame is unique, right? So having 66,368 unique names, they all must be present in the round file, right? So I will now go back to that to figure it out. Now, here what I'm saying is, now if you notice here, the permalink column has got caps, lowercase, a combination of sentence case and all that. Now I want to, and here if you notice, this again has got all caps, sentence caps and all that. So now I'm making it all together in a single format. This is what is data cleaning first step. I'm trying to figure out what is it that could help me out. So I am changing here. So I said, we store the content of company's permalink with lower, that is convert every character there into lower case and then give it. So now everything is lower. So it is easy. Same way I will do the comparison there. So now how much of unique is there? I'm saying pick unique permalink and tell me. So it tells me 66,368. So there are 66,360 because remember permalink is the unique key between both the Excel files. I showed you that. Now when I probably come into the next one, rounds file, I see 90,247, which means instead of 66,368, we have 90,247 unique values. Now that could probably because we had all capital, uppercase, lowercase. So let me first correct that. So just like how I did in this thing, I'm changing it here also. So here I'm making them together and then I am again checking out. It says 66,370, which means I have 2 records extra. Is it not? So now I will probably have to see which is the 2 which are extra because I need to have a one-to-one match. This is what data cleaning is all about. All that what we do when we are trying to do a data cleaning or data readiness is identify missing values, identify duplicate rows, and then start working on it. Now I've got two rows which are not matching, so I will do that. Yes, you can, Gayatri, you can check duplicates also. df.duplicate is what is there. You can check it out. Okay, so now I have converted everything to a lowercase, and then I'm saying locate from rounds file the permalink and ensure that is available in company's file, which means now I'm merging these two. If time permits, I'll probably add that, Gayatri. So now I'm matching these two and I'm picking whether it is available. So now I know both these are there. So I am picking out where the differences. See here, there are some control characters. See here, when I compared, we had a lot of weird characters. So that is what was the encoding issue. So I encoded, still I have some. So that is what I filtered. And now, if I really look at it, see here, I have the company file is in permalink and I put it, no junk columns. I have 74 rows and 6 columns, and I have 66,368 rows, unique. So now I have both the files having same number of rows. I have both the files having the same number of rows. So my first step is clean. If I want all the data, I need all data from both the files. When I pick all the data from both the files, all data as in all columns, all rows, it gets merged horizontally and appended vertically, right? So if I want to do that, there should be one column which is unique, and that is permalink. But I had mismatches. Now I have removed and both of them are tying in. So do you understand the purpose as to what I was doing? Say yes. If not, I can repeat the purpose. Does it make sense to you as to why we did that? Both these files have to be merged when we do the analysis, right? So we need to understand how to merge it. So we had the permalink, and that is where we went into the details. Thanks, Gayatri. Can others confirm? Thanks, Vishal. So we are just trying to merge these two files. So this is what I did at the end of the story. See here, I had companies. So I had unique list, which I had to pick here. So I had the unique coming in here. And then I had the rounds 2, which also had the company name. Permalink was there. So I used it for getting the unique pick. Company permalink is what is common for both that I picked. So till now, I am clear. I know what I have done. Thanks, Vishal, Gayatri, for confirming. Others, I presume you are still with me. If you are lost, please put in your query so that I'll be able to help you. Now that I have got it cleared, now what is the next step? All that what we are trying to do, see here, we have a lot of special characters. Now, all these special characters are detrimental to our analysis. So let us remove them. So I'm removing these special characters. If it is not ASCII, ignore. So all that I'm saying is, if it is not an ASCII value, ignore, which means all these things will go away automatically. See here, when I look at it, it's all clean. My company's file is ready for operations. So now I have a clean company file and a round 2 file that I'm going to use. Now, what are the steps in analysis that we need to do? I said first is delete unwanted rows, identify missing values, see whether you have to fill in a missing value or remove them. So there are ways and means which you will try to do that. So I'm reading the files, then I am trying to ensure both have same set of values. So both have same set of values, 63, 668. Now I'm going to start with the first step on analysis, which is your missing value treatment. So I need to know, is there a missing value first of all? So the easiest way is figure out how many columns have a null value. Is null means there is no value. So I'm taking a count of so many. So name, there is 1. Homepage URL, there are 5,058. Category list, there are 3,148. So there is a huge list of missing values, right? This is in company's file, and the same way you have missing values in the rounds file. But the good thing is this does not have data on the permalink, which is the key field, because that's a danger. If the key field data is not there, those of you who are introduced to analytics or Python coding, suppose if there are missing values in the key field, that is the permalink in this case, which is common in both files. What do? Can we go ahead with the analysis or no? Say yes or no. If some values of the key field is missing, what do? Do we ignore and continue? Anybody say yes or no? Or continue or no, whatever. Okay, I have no from everybody. Okay, the reason why you are saying no is because both the files have some missing values on the key field. The way I will operate is, I will figure out and remove all the, there are two ways. If there is very few, I can probably delete those rows which have permalink blank, continue with the rest of it. Because I have 117,000 rows. So if there are 5 rows which are missing, it doesn't matter to me. Whereas if out of 117,000 rows, 100 rows have blank, I have a problem. As most of you said, it's a no in that case. But if it is very minimal, I can still leave it. And I can delete those rows and go ahead. I don't necessarily have to look at missing values if it is not huge. And if it's a huge key fields, it's very difficult to fill in the missing values. So you may have to get back to the data collector type. Then I look at the missing, I clear out on the missing values. So I am saying merge these because the permalink is not missing any longer. Now I have a merged file. What am I doing as merge? When I say PD merge, it reads the first file, that is companies, and picks every permalink and the relevant columns from companies, picks the permalink in the rounds, the equivalent permalink, picks all the other columns and brings in. So you have permalink, name, homepage URL, category list, status, country code, state code, region, city founded at. Again, a company permalink, funding round type, funding round code. So from this point onwards, you have it on the rounds file. From this point, you have it on the company's file. Both these are horizontally attached. That is why it is called merge. But this one and this one are common. So I will drop one of those columns. So I am dropping company permalink. So I know these are the columns. So first thing, I merge the files. Now, why did I do that? Because I need to know the companies with their details, like the category, status, and also know how much of funding they have acquired. That is what I'm trying to do. So I came into this. I have merged them. Now, I have this consolidated column list. And then now what I do is I validate to see whether there are any missing values. Because I'm converting it into a percentage and all that, you get a decimal, don't worry about it. Now 0%, 2% is all minuscule, we don't have to worry. But clearly, funding round code, founded at and raised amount are definitely not in this thing. But more importantly, this funding round code doesn't mean anything to us. 73% missing, you're not going to be able to use it at all, right? So I can probably remove it. I don't want to use it, so I can probably remove it. Any column which has got a huge data missing and is not going to be of any value for analysis, please drop them. That is rule 2 when you are working on analytics. While you're preparing data, unwanted columns, unwanted rows, please remove them. So I am going to drop that. Similarly, homepage URL, I don't care what the homepage URL is. I don't care who founded it. I don't want to know which state or region or city they are in. So I will drop them also. So how do I drop columns? How did we drop here? We use the column code master drop, right? So master is the data file, and then you want to drop there the column name. Same way I say master drop. See here, I say master drop. That column is drop. See here, I've dropped it. The same way I'm going to be dropping those columns. There you go, I master drop. Now see it. It's a lot more meaningful and clear, and all of these is required. Now I will again look at a percentage to see whether the numbers are alarming. No, they are not. but there is a 17% blank in the raised amount. Don't you think that is big? How many say that's a huge number to monitor? How many say no? Say yes or no. How many say this is a huge number and you need to be worried? Yes, thanks, Gayatri. So I think one of those first ones to respond. So you got bugged about too many questions. You have started using alphabet. I'm fine with it. What is scary? Thanks, Sundaresan. What is scary, Gayatri? This is how the real life data is. This is a real life data that we have picked. Yeah, number is scary, correct. So what do? We will have to understand what is there in it and then do the needful. Secondly, we see that the country code and category list also have some blank columns, right? Let's first look at this one. As Gayatri said, that's a scary thing because 17% is quite high, right? So what we will have to do is to understand what can be done there. So I will ask it to describe. Now, describe is a lovely function in Python. You know what it does? It tells you how many rows. It tells you what is the mean because it is numeric. It tells you the standard deviation, the minimum value, the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, the maximum value. Those of you who attended my Excel say this thing, in analytics, in data, there was an option called describe, which was actually giving it. That's exactly what it is that you are getting it. So this means what is clear is mean is around 10 million. Look at the median. Where is the median here? Anybody, can you tell me? Look at this shaded region and tell me where is the median? Anybody? You just refer the name that is given. You have mean, STD, MIN, 25%, 50%, 75%, and max. Which one out of them is median? Anybody? Some of you who attended my graphs Excel session will definitely know this. If you still remember that, of course. Which is the median here? Median is the midpoint. There is no gray, Gayatri. It is black or white. So maybe it's not acceptable answer. You'll have to say 50% or no. Or are you saying maybe 50% of median? So you're saying median, 50% of the median is somewhere it is or something like that? It is 50%. Okay. Anybody else? 50. Perfect. So 50 is the midpoint and median is the midpoint. So we are saying median is roughly around 1 million, whereas mean is roughly around 10 million, which means we don't have to worry about the missing values because they are not going to impact your median. They will probably impact your mean. And as the mean and median get closer, this thing is more appropriate. The data is more useful for you to operate. They are more accurate. So it is okay if I'm going to drop those missing values. Do you concur with me? Do you concur with me? Say yes. So do you concur with me? Okay. Thanks. So basically, now I'm going to remove. So all that I'm saying is NaN means null. That's a function available in the NumPy. So I'm saying from the master data frame, if there is a null value on this, that is your raised amount USD, then drop it. So I'm trying to take it. Now I'm checking out. Now it is a lot more sensible. I'm not having too many null values except the category list. Country code, of course, is 6%. So we will probably look at the country code. See here, when I look at the country code along with the category, it tells you the country code value counts. See here, you get all this. And we know American countries, we have around 62,000. Rest of it is very minimal. American is 5 digits. Rest of it is 4 digits or single digits. See here, all these are 1. So if country code is not there, what does it mean? So we'll have to figure out. See, 65% of it is USA. Less than 1% is what comes into some other countries. So the impact, if you're going to remove the rows with country code blank, is not going to be heavy because we are talking about roughly 6 rows. That is just 6% overall. We had 117,000 rows. We are removing roughly around 6 rows. So you still have 110,000 rows. So is it really going to matter? It will not. So I will remove that. So now I have a lot more acceptable numbers. The category list. Now, the good part of it is when I start dropping, my category list also gets dropped. See here, I dropped some of those, this thing which was blank, and my category list came down. Now I am dropping country, my category list has come down further, which is a good point that we will have to look at, right? So I've deleted, so my category is 0.65. Now 0.65 is minimal, so I don't have to worry. So I could probably ignore or delete that also. So I'm going to delete it. Now everything is clean. Now what did I do? I have cleansed the data. I have dropped all missing values. Sometimes, as Gayatri was saying, I will not drop the missing values, but I might probably add some number to it, which is called imputing. Now, when I want to impute a number, now let's say, for example, you have number of years of experience and salary. 1 year, 1 lakh, 2 years, 2 lakh, 3 years, there is nothing. 4 years, you have 4 lakhs, 5 years, you have 5 lakhs. It's very clear. Number of lakhs are tallying. So if 3 years is missing, it is 3 lakhs. 4 years is missing, 4 lakhs. So I will probably impute the value rather than dropping. Sometimes categories, see here, we had these country codes and all that. It was less than 6%, I dropped it. If not, what people will normally do is they will move them to the most frequent category. So this problem where I dropped the country code, which was blank, some professionals may try to move them to USA because that was the biggest contributor. So they will move them to USA. Now, why am I doing this? Now, the question comes is, I am cleaning this data. Can anyone tell me why should I clean this data? Anybody? Quickly, why do you think we need to clean the data? Quickly, anybody? It's perfectly fine for you to test out. Any random thoughts should be presentable. Good thought. Who else? What else? Anybody else? Any other question, comments? Okay, Sudarshan says for accuracy. That's a fair point. Now, what I did was, remember, what is data analytics? You are taking informed decisions, which means your data should be accurate. When it is not raining, you get WhatsApp messages of photographs of all rains all over, flooded. You'll obviously know it is not raining, so you'll not believe. But during flood, for example, or during our corona, there was a lot of these WhatsApp messages which were inappropriate, not true, that came in. So what happened? If you started believing it, where do we end? We will end up in a wrong decision, right? So to ensure our decisions are not inappropriate, or putting it the other way, to ensure our decisions are appropriate, we are correcting the data, which is what in technical terms is known as preparing the data. So I have now prepared the data, and the data is now ready for analysis. So Sudarshan's point in terms of for accuracy is valid because my data is all the more closer to reality. From a Gayatri's perspective, she said presentable. To an extent, I can still give her a portion of the credit because if it is not accurate, my analysis is not going to be presentable. So I will have to look at it, right? So now, remember what we have done. We saw that there are 2 files. We opened those files, looked at the contents programmatically, saw how many rows are there, how many unique rows are there, then removed unwanted columns, rows, merged the two files, and dropped all the blank rows. I could have imputed if required, but ultimately now the data is ready. Now all this has to be done before you start analyzing. You have now prepared the data. See, it is a lot more cleaner for you to look at. So the data is ready. Now you will have to start analyzing. Now, when I'm talking about funding, I am worried about 4 fund types: venture fund, angel fund, seed fund, and private equity. Let's not get into what each of these fund types are. Those of us who are into investment and all that may know it, but let's not get into it. As a problem statement, pick it as I want to look for only these 4. So all that I'm saying is, I am filtering it so that my data will have only these 4 fund types. Right? Now, I want to know how the funding has happened. So I could probably use a mean or a median for me to do that. But I also need to know how much of data went through, how do I do that, how much of volume of money was given and all that. So an easier way for us to use is, I have the amount raised by me, right? I will plot it into what I call as a box plot. Now, again, those of you who attended my session, because I know some of you are known to me here, you would have heard of my talking about box plot. This basically tells you the outliers. This tells you the midpoint. This tells you the 0th percentile, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, 100th percentile. So, sight of a graph, you will know how much is your outlier. So what is an outlier? Anything that is not falling within a particular number frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is no outlier. 1, 2, 30, 4, 5, 30 is an outlier because everything is in single digits. Why did that go into 30? So instead of you looking at 117,000 rows, you plot it. This is where I use the matplotlib pyplot. So there is something called as box plot. I have not used that this thing. I use the SNS. So I'm taking that. There are multiple packages. You can use whichever you want. You have your pie plot that you have drawn, and that box plot tells you these are the outliers. Now I'll describe. So I get the mean, median, standard deviation, everything. We saw this. I don't have to explain. But the key factor is we already saw 10 million and 1 million has now become 9.5 million and 2 million. So there is a significant difference. So we need to understand how does it go across various fund types. Remember, we have segregated it across venture, seed, private equity, and angel. So I will do a box plot with these 4. So when I say X equal to, it converts the X axis for the fund round type and converts the Y axis to raised amount type. And here you go. If I want to calculate mean, median related to those, see here. I told you I can create pivot tables, right? So I'm creating. Now, okay, how many of you remember pivot table in Excel? Quickly say yes or don't remember on the chat box. There is a reason for my ask. I know I have another 15 minutes. I'll finish it. Don't worry. Quickly, yes. Do you remember pivot charts? Pivot table. Anybody? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, what does pivot table do? It actually does a summary, is it not? It actually does a summary. That is exactly what I am saying. I am saying create a pivot table based on raised amount, based on the funding type that we are talking about. And I'm saying aggregate it with median and mean. So see here, you have a pivot table which gives you median, which gives you mean. So for angel, the median is 4,14,000. Mean is here, 8,91,000. Similarly, private equity, seed, and venture. Remember, you will not have anything beyond these 4 because we have already filtered. But the key factor is between median and mean, there is a huge difference. there is a huge difference, which means now for my analysis, if I want to know what is the average funding that venture capitalist is given, I might probably say venture would have given 5 lakhs average, but I mean 1 million, but here it is 5. So there is a huge difference. So choosing mean for analysis may be inappropriate. We will have to choose median. Right? So now let's probably use median for the analysis. So I'm saying group these based on median and sort it in the ascending order. So now I will go country-wise. I know I have these country codes. So I want it for the top 9 countries. So I'm filtering it for the top 9 countries and then trying to get it for the 3 countries, USA, Great Britain, and India. There you go. This is venture investment in the 3 countries. So this way I can probably filter, get into the specifics. Now, the same distribution, I will now analyze based on the funding amount. See how clear it is. Now we know venture investment type, what is the volume across 3 countries, Great Britain, USA, and India. So if I am in USA, I need to use a venture capital funding because I know this comes up very clearly. So my analysis will start getting into these angles. I will choose what type of funding in which country. So USA is venture. Similarly, I'll talk about sectors. I will take the sector. I will say main category, category list, and then I'm splitting those, trying to figure out, getting the details. So I have a mapping file. Okay, I will show you that also. I guess I should have that. Just a sec. I'll show you the mapping file. Give me a moment. In the meanwhile, if any of you have anything which you feel is inappropriate or not clear, please put them on the chat box and I will answer them. Any questions you have, please ask me here in the chat box. I will answer them. Okay, I will show you the mapping file. I have that also. This is the mapping file. Now, what does this do? All that it does is for different types of business that I have, there are different types of industry sector that comes in. When I'm into, let us say 3D printing, I'm into manufacturing. When I'm into, let us say accounting, I am probably into social finance. So that way I have got a categorization done. And now that is what is the sector which I'm going to identify. And that is why I have this. So I am opening the mapping CSV, looking at the category. So it tells me what is what. I will, as always, remove the null files. I will probably do all those cleansing there. I'm not going to repeat that. Now, what I will do is once I have done all that, in the main file, I'm trying to look at the top mapping files. Everything is fine. So now I get into the list. Now I want to do the mapping. So what I will do is I'm going to now merge mapping into this. So main category into mapping category list. So now that is added and you have the mapping here. We already talked about merging, so I'm not getting into the details, but you have this main category. I am calling it main category. From mapping file category list, you'll have to put it. So you get the main category. Now that you have it, analyzing on the industry sector is very simple that we are going to look for. See, here you go. I have merged them. So now I am analyzing them. So now when I analyze, I will get into the specifics. I think I've written a graph here. No, I've not used a graph, but I've told you directly. Okay, fine. So I'm mapping. I am then based on category, I'm removing the not applicables and zeros, merging them so that I have one file which has everything. See here, news, manufacturing, everything. right? The rest of the conversions, I don't want to talk about, which is beyond today's thing. So I will stop here, but I will get into the specific of graph. See, if I want to draw other graphs, see, I'm saying plot, subplot. I want to plot a bar plot. What? X-axis is my sector. Y-axis is raised amount. Hue is country code. Now, what is hue? Hue is this top bar that you get. So you the shading that you get, the shading that you get will also be able to get that. So basically, see here, you have this shade coming in differently. That is what we will probably look at, right? That is what we will probably look at. So you are drawing. So you are drawing it in such a way that you are able to get what you want to. A quick pause. Is it making sense? Any questions? Put that in the chat box or say yes. Say yes or your question here. See here, I put in the details. Perfect, I see yes. Great. Okay, so I see quite a bit of 3 S's from the usual people. Thanks, folks. So this is how I draw a graph and then I make it look clear. So this is very clear. Automotive and sports is very low. Semiconductors is high in USA. So you are able to understand how things go. And you're able to say the top country in terms of number of investments is USA, the sector others, and clean tech semiconductors are most heavily invested ones. See here. This and this. Is that making sense? Any question?
Banu sir, you're on mute.
Sorry, JJ, tell me. Jeshi, you were telling me something.
You were on mute, Banu sir.
Yeah, okay. It went on to mute. Fine. Yes. I had asked people for question. Gayatri, I can give you this thing if you want to, not an issue. Jeshi, folks are wanting this to be shared. Do you think we can share it through a mode like what we used to do for the Excel files?
Yes, sir. We can discuss about that and we can do it.
Okay, Gayatri, somebody will get back to you on that, guys.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody, is it making sense? Any questions or anything at all that comes up here? Anybody, anything that you want to ask, feel free to ask. Okay, so now going back to the presentation, before I summarize, going back to the presentation, see here, we saw the sample code. So all that what I have done is, I have just sown the seeds for you to nurture it further. You will have to get your hands wet if you are really wanting to get into Python. Based on this initial understanding, yes, I can share this PPT, I can share this. You can reach out to me, connect with me, I can help you, all that is fine. But if you want to write, you will have to write and wet your hands. Yeah, Sundaresan, you're saying when we do imputing, it is like guessing only, which will affect the accuracy. To an extent, you are right, Sundaresan, but the point that you need to is, though you are guessing, you are making a calculated guess. You know why? When I'm talking about the example like salary, wherever possible, I'll try to figure out a way in which I will impute. So if it is 1 year, 1 lakh, 2 years, 2 lakh, 3 years, 3 lakhs, I know 4 years will be 4 lakhs. So that is what I will probably do. But suppose if there is no clarity in terms of it, so I try to take the mean or the median. Now, normally people will take the mean when it is numeric. They will take the mode when it is non-numeric. The idea is that's the mean. When I take the mean value itself, it will not impact my overall average. So I'm okay to do that. While yes, there is a guess, we are making a calculated guess for us to achieve it, and which is acceptable statistically for us to do it. Does that answer your question, Sundaresan? See, that little bit of analytics is not directly in terms of your decisions. It is more in terms of outcome of the decision. Now, if you're on the trial and error mode, you impute value with mean. See what your decision is. Impute your value with median. See what your decision is. Remove the row, which is blank. See what the decision is. Which is the closest for you to decide. That is what it is. So as you keep doing it, you will master the art in terms of how you will probably achieve. Does that make sense, Sundaresan? Any other questions? Any other questions? Anything else that you want to bring up? If there are no questions, back to you, Jayashree, for the final closure. I think I'm more or less on time. I did it.
Yes,
back to you, Jayashree.
Yes, Banu sir. And Sundaresan has replied in the chat box. So you can just
you used ASCII filter to filter special characters. Those special characters are based on ASCII values, Sundaresan. But here, if you notice, let me go back and show you that. I'll take a quick minute here, Jayashree. Let me go back and show you in the code, Sundaresan. In this case, I have a UTC code also coming in. If you notice, I would have given the text. I'll send you this file where you'll realize. See here. I have removed all the special characters because I used the ISO 8859. I used it and removed all the other special characters. So ASCII codes technically are not special characters for Python. The special characters comes in with like those Italian codes and all that, U with a dot on top, S with a slash on the right side and all that, right? Those are removed because I'm using this encoding format to do it. So I've already removed all those that are not required. So comparing with ASCII will not impact me. That's the only reason why I compared with ASCII. Does that make sense to you, Sundaresan? Perfect. Thanks. Anybody else? Any other question? One last time, any more questions, any more thoughts, comments before I hand it back to Jayashree? Jayashree, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Banu sir. That was a power-packed and a very knowledgeable session. So when done right, skills developed can actually reduce underemployment and increase the productivity. We genuinely hope we were able to give you some insights into the basic analytics using Python. Practice greatly increases the likelihood that we will permanently remember whatever we learned as new information. So do remember to practice the same, dear participants. So with that note, we will end this session. So as we draw close to the day, I'm going to request you to take a couple of minutes and please provide your feedback on today's session. Vasu, can you please bring up the feedback form? Thank you, Vasu. Yeah, here we have a range of questions for you and your answers will help us understand your experience at today's session. How would you rate today's session on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being the minimum and 5 being the maximum. The second question is, how would you rate our facilitator, Mr. Banu Kumar, on the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the minimum and 5 being the maximum? So while you fill in the feedback form, let me reiterate that there will be many more sessions that will be rolled from Avatar in the coming months. Stay tuned and look out for our announcements. Please visit www.myavatar.com to explore various opportunities and activities that celebrate diversity. If you have not registered at myavatar.com as yet, do log on to myavatar.com and register now. Browse through to find jobs and might suit your skill sets. Read articles of your interest, upskill yourself through various webinars conducted exclusively for you. Thank you once again to everyone who had joined us this evening for the session. So signing off today is Jayashree Jayaraman. Take care, stay safe, and thank you, Banu sir.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your participation. Bye-bye.
Bye.